Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, I don't even recognize myself anymore? Because most people think burnout is just about working too hard, that it's about too many emails, too little sleep. But what if I told you the real danger isn't your workload, but what your work is doing to your identity, to your sense of self? If you're a coach, a leader, or just someone who cares about making work better, then you need to hear this. This video is for you because the real burnout equation is about identity theft. When toxic environment get who you are, not just what you do. So stick with me because what you'll learn today could change how you see burnout forever. So I'll start with my own story because I've lived this twice. The first time I was the youngest HR director in the UK. I thought I had it all. The title, the salary, the custom-made suits, the seat at the table. But every day I was asked to make decisions that didn't sit right with me. They weren't aligned to my values, my morals, or my ethics. I was told to be less emotional, to just go along with it, to put the business first always. And I remember one meeting, everyone around the table nodding as a new policy was rolled out, but I knew it would hurt people and I wanted to speak up. But the last time I did, I was told, you're too passionate, just be professional, be quiet. And so I started to stay quiet, and a little piece of me disappeared every single time. And over months, years even, those moments added up. I stopped bringing the ideas, I stopped laughing at work, I stopped caring about the things that I used to love. And one night, after another 14-hour day, I sat in my car and realised I just felt numb. Not because I was tired, but because I felt empty, like I'd been completely erased. And that's when I ended up in hospital. My body literally shut down. And the second time, that was even scarier because I almost didn't make it out. But the thing is that my hours weren't that much longer than anyone else's. The difference was how much of myself that I'd had to give up in order to keep going. And I see this all the time with clients. So let's talk about Sarah. She was a rising star in her tech company, always the one to take on extra projects, the one that her team relied on. But the culture shifted. And suddenly, speaking up was disruptive. She was told that she needed to start being more like everyone else. So Sarah started doubting herself. She'd sit in meetings silent, afraid to share her ideas. And she told me, I feel like I'm fading into the background. I'm not even sure what I believe anymore. I don't know what I want anymore. But she wasn't just exhausted. She was becoming invisible, even to herself. And then there's David. On paper, he was a dream employee, always on time, always delivering. But he came to me saying, I don't know what's wrong with me. I used to love this job, but now I feel numb. I go home and I can't even remember what I did all day. His workload hadn't changed, but the new leadership made him feel small, unappreciated, and out of place. And David's story is the story of so many high performers, reaching burnout not by tasks, but by a slow, steady erosion of self. So let's break down this real burnout equation. And it's this. Over the last decade, I've coached over 700 leaders through burnout and trained coaches from 14 countries. And I know this one thing to be true. Toxicity minus our sense of self equals burnout. So what does that mean practically? Well, it means that burnout starts long before you're physically exhausted. It starts when you're forced to betray your own values, to shrink, to adapt to survive in a toxic environment. So let's look at the science. When your environment is toxic, when you're not allowed to be yourself, your brain goes into survival mode. The amygdala, your fear center, is on high alert. The prefrontal cortex, the part you know as you, the part that helps you plan, focus, and make decisions, well, that starts to shut down. And over time, your nervous system gets stuck in fight, flight, freeze, or fall. A recent study from King's College London found that chronic workplace stress actually shrinks the prefrontal cortex. And that means less creativity, less problem solving, but more importantly, less you. Another study in Nature Neuroscience showed that people exposed to long-term workplace toxicity had changes in their hippocampus, the part of the brain that controls memory and emotion. But the most damaging part isn't just the stress, it's the loss of agency, the loss of self. You start to dissociate, to numb out. You go through the motions, but you're not really there. And that's why people in burnout often say, but I feel empty inside, or I don't care anymore. And it's why self-care tips don't work if you're still in an environment that's erasing you. You could take all the bubble baths in the world, but if you're still being told to hide who you are, to mask, to show up as someone different, to pretend, then you'll never recover. So I want you to pause for a second and ask yourself, or if you're a coach, ask your clients, when was the last time you felt truly yourself at work? What parts of you have you had to hide just to get through the day? Have a think about that. Pause, drop your answers in the comments. I read every single one of them. You are not alone. So let me share one more story. This is about Priya, a senior manager in finance. She was the fixer, the one everyone leaned on. But after years of putting herself last, she broke down in a session and said, I don't even know what I want. I feel like I'm living someone else's life. So together, we started small. And I asked her, when do you feel most alive? Now, it took her a while to answer, but when she did, it was like a light switched. The switch just switched back on. And that's the work, helping people rediscover themselves one tiny spark at a time. And there's even more science behind this. The World Health Organization recognizes burnout as a syndrome linked to chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. But what they don't highlight enough is that the most damaging stress is the kind that makes you feel invisible, powerless, or like you have to wear a mask every day. Research from Stanford University found that people who reported the highest burnout weren't always working the longest hours. They were the ones who felt the most disconnected from their values. And in my own work, I see it constantly. The most passionate, value-driven people are the ones that are most at risk. Because when they're forced to compromise who they are, it hurts at the very, very deepest level. So if you're a coach, a leader, or anyone supporting others, this changes everything. Traditional coaching tools, the goal setting, the time management, the productivity hacks, they fall flat when someone is at burnout. Why? Well, because you can't action plan your way out of an identity crisis. Clients at burnout need something deeper. They need someone who sees the signs, who understands that behind the mask of I'm fine is someone who's lost themselves. And you need to know how to spot the subtle signs, the perfectionism, the people pleasing, the silence in meetings, the withdrawal, the addiction to work. And you need to know how to create safety, how to help clients reconnect with who they are, not just what they do. And that's what my Master Burnout Coach program goes beyond, way beyond surface level fixes. I teach you the neuroscience, the trauma-informed tools, and the real-life strategies to help people reclaim themselves. So let me tell you about another client. This is Emily. She again was the fixer in her team, everyone's emotional support. But after years of putting her needs last, she broke down in a coaching session and said, I don't know what I want. I can't do this any longer. Now, that's not something that you solve with a SMART goal. That's a signal to go deeper, to help someone rediscover their sense of self. So what can you do starting today? Well, firstly, notice when you or your clients start to disappear. Ask yourself, where am I betraying my values just to fit in? Practice saying no, even in the smallest tiny way. And find one thing each day that reconnects you with who you truly are. Be that a song, a walk, a conversation, anything where you don't filter yourself. And if you're supporting others, remember, the goal isn't to make people more productive. It's to help them feel seen, safe, and themselves again. And if this resonates, if you want to be the kind of coach or leader who actually helps people recover, not just cope, then you need to start with your Burnout Aware Starter Kit. The link is in the description. You'll learn how to spot burnout before it's too late, how to work with the brain and body, and how to help clients rebuild their sense of self safely and ethically. And if you want to go even deeper, then come and join me in the Burnout Academy. Let's end burnout together, one coaching conversation at a time.